Welcome to the night class one more again. We are doing lesson 7-4 today. This will be our last lesson before our next test. Your next test will be next Tuesday. So put that in your memory banks. Today we're solving polynomial equations in factored form. So before we do example one, let's think about some things here. What is 3 times 0?
0.
What is 0 times 5?
0.
What is 10 times 0?
0. Now you're starting to confuse me.
Is there any way to multiply numbers and get 0 without one of the numbers being 0?
You just confused the crap out of me.
Is there any way to multiply numbers and your answer be 0 without one of the numbers being 0?
No, sir.
There's not. Okay? All right? They're not. So the only way to get 0, if you're multiplying, is for one of the numbers that you're multiplying by to be 0. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay? The other thing I want you to understand, 6. What are the factors of 6? Or what are 2 factors of 6?
3.
You could have 3 and 2. Or you could have what? There's 2 more.
2 and 3.
We already got 2 and 3. There's one more way you can multiply 2 numbers and get 6.
1 and 6.
1 and 6. Okay? Those are called factors. Okay? So, what we're doing is they're giving us factors, but they're giving us factors of polynomials, not of numbers. Okay? So, they're already going to be factored. But I want you to see what they look like before they were factored, like this one. If I were to distribute that, I would get 2x squared minus 8x. Okay? So this is the factored form of that. Everybody with me so far? Okay? And factors, we all know, are just 2 things that multiply to get something else, right? Okay? 2 and 3 are factors of 6 because 2 times 3 is 6. Everybody with me? Okay? 1 and 6 are factors of 6 because 1 times 6 is 6. So, these 2 things are factors of this. We want this to equal what? 0. So we're multiplying 2 things, and we want it to equal 0, right? We're multiplying 2x times x minus 4, and it needs to equal 0. We already discussed over here. In order to multiply something and your answer be 0, one of the things has to be what? 0. So what we're going to do to solve these is take each factor and set it equal to 0. So this is one factor, so 2x equals 0. And here's the other factor, x minus 4 equals 0. And you set both of those equal to 0 because do we know which one is equal to 0? We don't know, right? Okay, so we have to figure out all the possible answers for what x could be for this whole thing to be 0. Okay, so if I divide by 2, this x could be what? 0. This one would be what? 4. So in other words, x can be 0 or x can be 4. Okay, and if you want to check it, you can plug it in. What's 2 times 0? 0. And 0 times 0 minus 4 would be negative 4. What's 0 times negative 4? 0. I get my answer. Or we could plug in 4. Then we have 2 times 4 is what? 8. So that's not 0, but it doesn't matter because what are we multiplying 8 by? 4 minus 4, which is 0. So we're either saying 8 times 0 and getting 0, or we're saying 0 times negative 4 and getting 0. Is that making sense? Okay, so on all of these problems, all you have to do to work them is take the factors they give you and set them both equal to 0. Okay, so here, there's one factor, there's the other. We're just going to, do I know which parentheses is 0? Do I know for a fact which one is? No. So therefore, I just have to make both of them be 0 because I don't know which one they want. Everybody with me? Okay, so x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 9 equals 0. So this x would be what? What would make it 0? 3. This one will be 9. 2. Easy peasy. Okay? This is called the zeros. These are called, what are these called again?
Thank you.
The factors. Okay? These are the factors. These are called the zeros. They're called the zeros because when you plug them in, what do you get? 0. Everybody with me so far? Everybody good? All right, let's try 2 more examples just like this. Here, and we can do them real quick. 3x would equal 0. X minus 6 would equal 0. Okay? So what's this x going to have to be? 3 times what gives you 0? 0. Very good. What's this x got to be?
Plus 4.
6. Okay? If you haven't seen the pattern yet, basically your answer is just always what the opposite of the factor is, right? If the factor is x minus 6, your answer is going to be x equals 6. Everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
So here, this x would be what? Negative 5. And this x is 4. Okay? Any questions?
No, sir.
So, can you do these without much work being shown?
Yes.
Yes. Every now and then there'll come a time where you can't do it in your head like that. You might get like 4x minus 3 as a factor, and it's a little harder to just change the answer on that one. Okay? So you might have to actually do your steps. But if it's just like this, really not much work to check. Everybody good? Everybody understand why it's working? This is called, what do you think this is called? What are we getting? 0. And what are we doing to get 0? What are we doing here? Say it. Multiplying. And what's the answer to a multiplying problem? It's called the what? The product. So this is the 0 product property. That's actually what you're doing here, okay? And it's the 0 product property, which basically just means in order to get 0, you have to be multiplying by what? 0. Okay? That's all it's saying. Everybody good? All right, let's look at example 2. This one is on page 379. These are a little more complicated. Not much there. Okay? So here, those 2 are my factors, right? So set them equal to what?
0.
Set them equal to 0. All right? I can't really do this one in my head very easily. I can if I think about it, but it's easier just to write it down. So I'm going to do what with the 7? Subtract it over, right? So 2x, and then divide by 2. Negative 7 over 2, or I would also take negative 3.5. Either answer there. That does not look like it. There we go. For this one, what do I need to do for the 7? Add 7 over. Okay? And it's just a little 2-step problem. Divide by 2. X is positive 7 over 2, or positive 3.5. And again, I would take either the fraction or the decimal if the directions don't tell you one way or the other. I'll take both, okay? If it says to write as a fraction, write as a fraction. But normally they don't say anything, okay? What about here? This one, we have, what's our factor? X minus 1, right?
Yes.
How many times is it a factor?
2.
Twice. Because if I wrote this out, it'd be x minus 1 times what? X minus 1. So do I have to work it twice?
No.
No. My answer is going to be the same both times. What's it going to be?
0.
Not 0, but what? What would make 0? 1. X has to equal 1 because 1 minus 1 is 0. Is that making sense? Okay. How many factors do we have here? 3. So we're going to have how many zeros? 3. Okay. This one would be equals -1. This one's going to be 3. And this one will be 2. Not really any work to show. Had a little work to show here just because the factors are a little more complicated. But when you get simple and easy factors, not really any work to show. Say that one more time.
So the X's are just 1?
The answers.
No, the X's.
The X's are just 1. What do you mean by that? What would make this parentheses 0? What would I have to plug in? 0 plus 1 is what?
1.
That's not 0. What plus 1 is 0? -1, the opposite of it. So this x is -1. Because if I plug it in, what do I get?
0.
0. Now, do I get 0 for all 3 of them?
No.
No. I get -3 and -2 for the other 2, but remember, to make it equal 0, how many of them got to be 0?
1.
Just one of them. Because as soon as I say 0 times, I can stop right now, 0 times anything is going to be what? 0. So it doesn't matter what these are, as long as one of them is 0.
Okay.
So if I plug in -1, that one's going to be 0. If I plug in 3, 3 minus 3 is, now the middle one's 0. And I don't care what the other 2 are.
Okay.
If I plug in 2, now the last one's 0, and I don't care what the first 2 are. Because as long as one of them's 0, I'm going to get 0 for my final answer. Because we are multiplying. Does that make sense? Okay? We'll do some more. Another one of these examples. Example 2 with, there we go. So let's see here. Again, these 2 are a little harder. So if I set that equal to 0, what would I do first? How do I solve that? It's 2 steps. Subtract what? Not everybody all at once. Subtract what?
5.
Subtract 5. Okay, so that would be 4x equals -5, and then divide by 4. So one answer is -5/4. Okay. The other answer, same process, 4x minus 5 equals 0.
Let's switch the sign.
But this time I add 5, right? So 5 added to both sides. 4x equals 5, divided by 4. So she is exactly right. The same answer, but this time it's what? It's positive 5/4. Okay? The rest of them, we can do like that. What's C got to be here? -6. Why? Because what's -6 plus 6? 0. You moving? Okay. What's that one got to be? -5. How about that one? 2. So, easy enough? Very easy. I think they're all pretty much easy. Is that the threshold? If you can understand it, it's got to be.
If I can understand it, I think we know.
You, I think you're smarter than you give yourself credit for.
Ethan is very smart. Yes.
All right.
We're all smart if we feel like being smart.
Smart outside.
I should write that down.
What?
That's a great quote. Example 3 says factor out the greatest common monomial factor from 4x to the 4th plus 24x to the 3rd. All right, so
Oh, God.
getting a little harder here. All right. First, I'm going to do this with numbers. Okay, so forget this problem right now. Just forget about it. I'm going to make one up. Okay, 36 and let's see here, 12 and 6. What is the common factor between 36, 12, and 6?
3.
6. Okay. The greatest common factor
Greatest common factor.
is 6. Is that the only common factor?
No.
No, it is not. It has other common factors, but the biggest one is 6. Okay? Would 3 be a common factor?
No.
Yes. 3 goes into 6, 3 goes into 12, 3 goes into 36.
Oh.
Okay? Would 2 be a common factor?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Would 4?
No.
No. 4 goes into 12 and 36, but the 4 doesn't go into 6.
Oh, I just said.
You with me? Okay. It has to go into all of them for it to be something they have in common. Everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
So 6 is the biggest one. So everybody's okay with numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The letters are super easy. If you can do the numbers, you can do the letters. Okay? So here's what you do. Oops. Make that a little bigger. There we go. So for this one, we have 4 and 24. What's the common factor between 4 and 24? 4. Okay? G, C, L. Equals 4. But as you can see, we also have what up there? Variables. Okay? To do the variables, each term has to have the same variable. Do they both have the same variable? They both have what? X. Okay, I'm not talking about the exponent. They have to have the same letter. They both have X, and the common variable or the common factor is just the smallest degree. So which one is smaller?
25.
Between x to the 4th and x to the 3rd, which is smaller? X to the 3rd. So it's just x to the 3rd. Everybody with me? So notice, it says factor what?
Factor out.
Factor out. So we're going to factor out 4x to the 3rd. So this right here, we're going to move it out front. And then we have to put, if we're taking it out, we have to put what's left in parentheses. Okay? Now I'm wanting you to understand what we're doing here. We are undoing the distributive property. Okay? So when you do the distributive property, what do you do? But to distribute, what math are you doing? You multiply. So factoring is undoing the distributive property. So what do you think we're going to do? Divide. So I'm going to take what I took out, and I'm going to divide this by 4x to the 3rd, and this by 4x to the 3rd. Okay? 4 divided by 4 is what? 1. So that cancels. X to the 4th over x to the 3rd. X to the 1 power. So it's just x. Okay? So x is left here, all right? Plus 24 divided by 4 is 6. And x to the 3rd and x to the 3rd just do what? They just cancel. There is my factored form. Everybody see that? Okay. So this would be my, how many factors do I have? 2. I have 4x to the 3rd as a factor, and then x plus 6 is a factor. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And actually, I have more than that. It just so happens, you know how sometimes one number can be a factor of something more than once, right? X is a factor of this how many times? 3 times. Okay? Because I'm letting you in on a little secret. However many's here, okay, that's usually how many factors you have. Okay? So we've got 1 factor, 2, 3, 4 factors. Because there's 3 x's and 1 x plus 6. Now, do you have to know that to do anything? No. I'm just trying to help you understand it better. Everybody good? You got that, Wyatt? Landon, you good? Awesome. Let's do another one. These are the ones I'm worried about, okay? The factoring part. What can we factor out of 12x to the third plus 3x squared? Why is it not moving? There we go. Okay. I'll just leave it like that. So, out front, I'm going to put my greatest common factor. So, 12 and 3, what's the greatest common factor? 3. Okay? What about your variables? You just pick the one that's what?
3x cubed.
Nope.
What are the only ones for?
You pick the one that's what? I'll write it out for you.
No.
This one has how many x's?
3.
This one has how many?
2.
How many do they have in common?
2.
2.
I don't know.
That's the only 2 they have in common. Okay? So again, think of it like that, or think of it, it's always the one with the smallest exponent. Everybody with me? Okay? So x squared, and then what's going to go in the parentheses? Well, we're going to divide by 3x squared. 12 divided by 3 is what? 4. X to the third over x squared is just x. Divide that by 3x squared. That is just 1. And we have just taken out the greatest common factor and factored it. Okay?
Will you always get just the number?
You should if you do it correctly, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay? But understand, you can only take out the variables if they all have a variable. Okay? So if there was one more step over here, it said plus 10. Okay? Now you don't have a greatest common factor. Because 12, 3, and 10, they don't have anything that'll go into all 3 of them. So that takes out no numbers. Okay?
What about
And do they all have an x? No. So you can't do the x either. Okay? Remember, greatest common factor means they have to have it in common. I heard you say 9. 9 won't go into 10. 9 won't go into 3.
No, what if it was?
Oh, what if it was 9?
Yes.
In that case, yes. How about we make it 18? Okay? Now my greatest common factor is just what? It's just 3 with no variables. Okay? 3 goes into 18, 3 goes into 3, 3 goes into 12. So it's still 3, but can we put x or anything out front with it? No, because this one doesn't have an x. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay? All right, example 4. We put it all together. Okay? So we've just done, I'm trying to make y'all see how they do it. They do it step by step, okay? This one's putting all the steps together. So we started out, they already had the what for you. What did they already have for you? What are they called, the things you multiply? Starts with an F. They already had the factors. It was already factored for you. Everybody with me? Now they're giving us some where it's not factored yet. So we have to factor it first and then figure out set them equal to 0. Okay? So here, on part A, 2x squared and 8x. What would the greatest common factor be between 2 and 8? 2 and 8. What goes into both of them? 2. Okay? 4 will not go into 2. 4 is too big. Okay? Now, do they all have a variable?
Yes.
Is it the same variable?
Yes.
Yes.
X.
Okay? What's the smallest one?
1.
X. So you bring out 2x, okay? And then we divide this by 2x. And what do we get? 2 divided by 2 is what? 1. X squared over x is just x. 8 divided by 2 is what? 4. And the x's cancel. Bring down your equals to 0. Okay? Now, That was example 3. Example 4, we take it a step further. They want us to solve it. So what do we do to both of these factors? What did we do on the very first example? We just set them equal to what? 0. Same thing. Okay? They walked you through it. So 2x equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. And like we talked about, these are really easy. This x would have to be what? Well, okay. And then what do you get? 0. This x would have to be the opposite, which is negative 4. Okay? So they've brought you. We started, the first examples we did was just this already. Okay? They had it already set up. You just had to set it equal to 0. Then they taught us how to factor, and now we're using that factoring to solve it. Is that making sense?
Yes.
All right. B. What's my common factor? Before I do my common factor, I need it equal what? Nope. What's it always need to equal?
0.
It needs to always equal 0 in order to use the 0 product property, right? Okay. So how can I move, or what can I move to make it equal to 0? How am I going to do that? If I want it equal to 0, what needs to be on the right?
Equals 0.
Nothing. So what do I need to do to 15n?
Minus.
Subtract it over. So I'm going to take it away from the right side, but if I take it away from the right, I also have to take it away from the left. Golden rule of algebra, right? Whatever you do to one side, you got to do the other. Can I subtract these? They're not like terms, are they? One's got an n squared, the other one's just n. They have the same variable, but they're not like terms. So I just write it. 6n squared minus 15n. Now I factor. 6 and 15. What's the common factor? 3. 3 will go into 6. 3 will go into 15. Evenly. Everybody with me? What's the common factor of the letters, the variables? Do they all have the same variable? What's the variable? N, and this, the smallest one is just n. So I'm going to divide by 3n, taking it out. That will be 2n minus 5. And now it's just like example 1. Set them both equal to 0. So 3n equals 0. That n is going to be 0. Divide by 3. Okay. 2n minus 5 equals 0. So we add 5. Add 5. 2n is 5. Divide by 2. N is 5 over 2 or 2.5, whichever way you want to write it. Okay? How we doing?
Pretty good.
Quite good? That was the last example, but I can find another one if we need one. Everybody okay? We need one more? Great, let's do one more.
I'm hoping to keep on going. So I'm about to get a check out here shortly.
Oh, what? Oh, that ain't cool. All right. So this one's set up, right? It's already equal to 0. So we need to factor 4 and 12. What's the common denominator between 4 and 12? 4.
Good job.
Okay? X squared and x. What's the common denominator? Just 1x. So take that out. Divide these. That would be x plus 3. Just 3. The x is canceled. Okay? I'm sorry? Okay. So this x, 4x equals 0. Divide by 4. One answer is 0. This answer is going to be what? If x plus 3 has to equal 0, what's x got to be?
Stop crushing your big toe. My
Negative 3. Very good. Okay? Can you check them? Yeah. Same way you always check them. Plug them back in. See if you get 0. Okay? Here is b equal to 0. Yeah. Part B right here. Is it equal to 0? It is not. So what do we need to do with that 8a? Subtract it over. Set it equal to 0. Okay? Negative 10 and negative 8. What's your common denominator? What number will go into 10 and go into 8? Both of them. Evenly. 2. Since they're both negative, I'm actually going to take out negative 2. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. But I like getting rid of the negative. Okay? Do they both have an A? Yes. What's the smallest one? Just A. So divide by negative 2a, divide by negative 2a. We're going to get 5a plus 4 equals 0. Everybody with me? And now you just set both of those equal to what? 0. So negative 2a equals 0. You're going to divide by negative 2. So a is 0. And then 5a plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4. And then divide by 5. A is negative 4 over 5. Okay? Hope this quick little video helps. Good luck on your lessons. Stay above the line.